Good evening. Yes, we're back. We're back at Disney. I wonder if they're putting the Secret Service through here as well. And I wonder if they were here as children as well. And each ride has a meaning, special component to the trauma-based MK Ultra programming. Spies. This is an instant crash course for any age, really. Maybe even pre-verbal, where you go through this ride and are instantly aware of many different cultures that you could be assigned to as a spy. Spy 101. I got a message, someone said they feel like there are children in... Well, we'll get to that in a minute. There you are on your crash course. That there are children underground, maybe even in cages locked away in a deeper sort of programming, that there are different levels. In the previous, there's some sex kitten programming thrown in. Little match girl. All of it embedding various aspects of the altars. And what I saw in the Reddit posts from last time, and I did bring it up again, was that many of them were taken from books, from actual people. It wasn't just anonymous posts. And there are definitely people who've been mentioned before. But here we are, we are in our crash course in going around the world. We are ready for anything now. We can identify who is who, what is what and where. Sure, there's just all kinds of imagery that's meaningful in many ways. But one of the people who talked about coming to Disney and I think being SA'd while on this ride. It's a very long, very dark ride. So It goes on for a long time. Most rides are only 2.5 minutes long. I'm sort of learning about these things a little bit. And this one's like 20 minutes long. It's just endless. So all kinds of things can happen in this place. It's very dark. It's full of music. And according to Bryce, you can just be pulled off. That rides often, quote unquote, break down. And maybe not to get this confused with what's going on now at Disney. I think they just have some malfunctions, but who knows? According to Bryce and Kathy O'Brien and others, when a ride breaks down, do you see the doors there? They're not only maintenance doors. That's where they stop, and they will occasionally just snatch these children who are in cahoots with the parents. You know, it's not like it would happen randomly necessarily. This is all where the parents are part of the abuse, part of the club. They're getting money, they're getting status, and they're just letting these things happen. I'm sorry I didn't bring up Lieutenant Aquino's picture again for this segment, but if you look at the last video, you can see that the Lieutenant Colonel, who was head of psychological operations and at Edwards Air Force Base, just right across the hills over the Grapevine. Temple of Set. He was mega big Satanist in a blatant way, and also the head of psychological operations really during this whole time. And I can see him just reveling in this kind of lurid programming for children. There was a lawsuit actually against him where children from the daycare at Edwards Air Force Base said that he kidnapped them and brought them to all kinds of different places, and they were able to recall like all kinds of details. And I don't know what happened with that. It was like a very just weird, creepy, here we are training to be spies. See how slow this is? It's really just taking its own sweet time. You know, we've been, to India, we've been to Canada, you know, just all kinds of places. Polynesia, Oceania, and it just continues. Here we are, under the sea. We are just getting the whole gamut. This is pretty deep programming, and I don't know if it comes off the heel of Alice in Wonderland or post Mr. Toad. But this is, I would think for a child especially. I went at 5. I mean, it's hard. It's like that was a long time ago. I do recall, though, that learning later that Sonny and Cher, Beck's grandfather, that a lot of people did take LSD. And I would not put it past someone like an Aquino, a Jolly West, to even enhance this long ride, programming ride, educational ride with LSD. with children. And again, is this where the Disney adults come from? Were they programmed, and are they like little salmon that have to keep going back to their that they're trauma bonded somehow? That they're just kind of willing to be in this dark space over and over again. And you know, where are the other secret doors, right? You know, God forbid if the ride breaks down. You're snatched into the realm of some handler and again there are other videos. I'm sorry I didn't bring it up. I just sort of brought things up tonight. But the Masonic badge, that there's a Disneyland Masonic club, and it was like a blue badge with yellow trim. Disney, you know, number. There we are. More countries, more cultures. We are fully absorbed with the various flavors of the world and identify. And who knows what's going on in these dark boats. That was something Bryce mentioned, was, you know, you can be alone on these. We're seeing these with a fair amount of people on them, but these go at night. A lot of the programming that's deeper is at night after hours. I can't imagine how creepy this would be after hours, you know, going on this alone or with a programmer, being, you know, drugged. So I think it's coming to an end. Sorry. Yeah, it's just a bit much. So here is that overview page that talks about the programming, and I'll leave a link to that. Here is Bryce, and she was a mind-controlled slave. She's got a book. None of them sued her. I think Bob Hope might have already been deceased by the time she wrote it, but Henry Kissinger was alive and kicking, and he never sued her or anything. It's just wild. And here, again, is where he was. It wasn't in Hilo, though. The Mauna Kea, this really is bothersome. The Mauna Kea is on the other side of the island, but good for them for finding it at all. That was his secret place. And so she talks about being with him at Disney. And I'd like to read the book more in depth. I've only read chapters to see if she talks about Hawaii as well. Another person who was talking about the whole underground cages and all of that is a woman who wrote Transformation of America, Kathy O'Brien. She names names as well. You know, there's another woman, I'm sorry, I forgot to bring her up. I don't remember her name, and she's been on the speaking circuit a lot, and she is from Australia, and talks about being like put in a crate and put on a plane and taken to Disney. Here is John Lennon. Here's John Lennon in a Mickey Mouse shirt, and I don't know if I mentioned this before. I didn't bring the picture up before. But there he is. That is Disneyland in the background. He's with some workers there. And it says here that he signed off being a Beatle in an official capacity from Disneyland on December 29th, 1974. So that's kind of bizarre that that is where he ended his career with the Beatles. We've got Theodore Adorno arguing that Walt Disney is the most dangerous man in the world. And of course, before we had Kissinger saying that Adorno was the most dangerous person if AI ever came to be. And that he was bowing out gracefully, he said, when he came near death. And the meaning of the Ride of the Teacups is like sorbet in between the courses of a meal, that someone can be traumatized, but they learned that with certain drugs and certain I don't know, other things, that the memory could be wiped. And one of the memory wipers is spinning. And so they would maybe often take a child onto the teacups after being on It's a Small World. And they'll forget that maybe the ride was traumatic, or there was trauma on the ride, or maybe they were even taken off the ride and somewhere else for a time. And this will bring the angel of forgetfulness upon them.